going from place to place. Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning, morning.
Good morning, viewers, and we are back here on the Tobago Updates Morning Show. Now, for this segment, we'll be taking things a bit technical, pun intended. And if you were paying attention to the news, you would have noticed that recently a Tobago Development Bank Committee was formed. And here to shed a bit more clarity on what that's all about, we have Mr. Anslem Richards, Chief Technical Advisor. Mr. Richards, a special morning to you, and how are you doing?
I'm fine. Thank you for having me. Good morning, Tobago. Good morning, world, wherever in it you are.
Now, the last time I interviewed you was another technical topic, so I guess it really forms into your title. Now, research would have provided that development banks, they mainly, in essence, they help promote the economic development of small island states especially. Now, for an island like Tobago, we expect that this is going to be a really excellent initiative. For our viewers and listeners who may not know what a development bank is all about, can you explain what a development bank is?
Okay, a development bank is a financing institution that basically mobilizes, its core function is to mobilize resources, financial resources to fund development program in islands or states that are struggling to access that kind of financing in the normal financial services sector. Tobago is a special case. We have been struggling over the years to get the kind of development investments through the budgetary process to fund our development. For instance, last year we got $400 million to fund the entire development program of the island in fiscal 2023. That was reduced to 260 in the current fiscal year, fiscal 2024. That is what we call a cottage-type investment strategy that cannot transform the Tobago economy. And therefore, and let me say at this point also that this idea of a Tobago Development Bank is not a new idea. You know, if you go back to the 15-year development plan that was done by PRDI under the leadership of Dr. Varnes James, that is one of the recommendations that is nested or resident in that document. So it's not a new idea, and the idea has been around for some time. But this administration found the political will and strength to really take up this initiative and run with it to some extent. So we are a bit advanced in this stage. So we have a committee that was working probably between seven months to a year, and we have done extensive work. We have an implementation schedule. We have been in conversation with the other international financing organization like the IDB. We have had conversation with the Caribbean Development Bank. We have had conversation on this matter with the central bank governor and the deputy governor and the executive of the central bank. All those institutions and the officials has pledged their support to an initiative like this, because when you put down the economic facts as it and history of Tobago, we recognize that we need a development financing institution, style like a Tobago Development Bank. So this is a critical flip for Tobago in our economic transformation, our economic development. And we are pushing ahead with this project. We are looking at the model. It would be in this stage, it does not operate like a commercial bank where you receive deposits and you charge, It will operate on a cost recovery basis, where the interest rate will probably just be to cover the costs, because you want to keep the access to development financing as cheap as possible, if you want to put it that way.
Okay, Mr. Richards, so it's really exciting that although we are struggling, as you say, always demanding more from the national budget, that we could find some way to, find a way around that. It's even more exciting that we are seeing past ideas are now being implemented in this 2024 visionary year. Now, you spoke about transforming the island of Tobago. What sort of transformation can we expect, especially when we look at our entrepreneurs? What can they expect from this development bank?
Well, the core function of the development bank, as stated, is really to make affordable financing for investors and entrepreneurs available so that can give birth to their ideas and their innovation. But the transformation of the Tobago economy is a bigger ecosystem for all of us. It has to do with the quality of our institution. So we have to start with and let me start with government. There's really a need for us to fix government in Tobago, including our internal self-government, including of the capacity and capability of the institution that is the THA to really discharge the functions and responsibility of a modern government. I make no apologies for saying that the current function of the government in Tobago and the government in Trinidad and Tobago, if you see what is happening at the country level, cannot support any modern form of government. There's totally, and the Prime Minister said it about the time we take to process things and forever. The
Yes.
Prime Minister said it recently. So he speaks to the quality of the institutions and the institutional system and agency that really affect the functioning of government. And as we understand it, is that it is the institutions of government that really affect development, because they are the entities and the agencies that utilizes the resources of the state to achieve those targeted outcomes. So we have to fix government in a main way, especially in Tobago, where the lead agency for socio-economic transformation is the Tobago House Assembly. So we have to fix that. We have to modernize the operations of the THE. We have to imbue and introduce the kind of technology. We have to treat it our human resources. We have to go and retrain and upgrade our HR capabilities. We have to have persons who have multiple professional skills and not single. You come with a core competence, but you want multiple competence, because the environment in which we live is an environment where it can be described as a place of intersectionality. So you have to have the capability to deal with multiple things at a professional level. Most of our professionals now have one core skills. So we need to change that construct of our human resource capability. That will take a lot of investment, training and retraining and upgrading. But key to this is we have to digitize the operation of the THE.
Okay.
That will bring a significant level of efficiency will come with that. That's one aspect of the transformation. That will also be impacted by what we are doing at our schools. Critical. So our school curriculum, we have to look at that, what we are doing at the primary school in terms of performance and the success of our meals. We have to look at what is happening at the healthcare sector. We have to look at what is happening in agriculture. We have to transform agriculture. I know agriculture contributes only 1% to the GDP. And food security is now, because of what came out from the experiences we got from the COVID-19 and then the war between Russia and Ukraine. It recognized that they have to have some level of food security capability, which is your food sovereign policy. So we are working on that. We have spoken about 2 mega farms that will give a big transformation to the economic reality in the economic sector, the agricultural sector in Tobago. So that's one. We also have to look at what is happening in the healthcare sector, what is happening with our infrastructure. But critical to that, the big factor in any economic transformation is how do we create new and expanding demand for goods and services in Tobago. And it has to do with our population level. Do we have the critical mass of population? Because it is people, everything we do as a government, we do it for the people.
Yes.
So we have to look at that. Well, the population now is trending about 70,000. So it's not 60 and 65 as people say. The statistics is saying it's about 70,000, which is about 5.01% of the national population. The fact of the matter is that the critical mass of a population that will give you the kind of economic transformation in terms of effective demands. Because you don't produce things unless there's a demand for it. So we have to look at the population. So then definitely we are working and looking alongside all of those things I've mentioned at the population policy for Tobago. How are we going to grow the population? The birth rate is trending downwards. I think we have the births are down by about 40%. That's a critical number when you do the comparison. So we have a lot of issues and matters to attend to as we move to make Tobago the greatest little island on earth. But we have identified some of the core issues that need to be attended to, and this administration led by the Chief Secretary is resolved to face these challenges head on. Hence the reason that we have moving apace with the development bank.
Okay, amazing, Mr. Richards, because I remember first week of law school, our tutor told us it's always good to identify a problem and complain about it, but the better part is when you actually put the work to fix the problem. And we are seeing that you all are putting in the work to really address the problems that we are facing here in Tobago. Especially when we look at the cash flow or finances, it's very slow. I remember last year the central bank would have implemented something where the checks would have gone from 4 days to 2 days to be deposited, which we question, like, why it took so long, like why in 2023 we have to wait for that type of development. But it's really amazing that, the island of Tobago is making a progress towards effective development, sustainable development. And in a question that people are asking, they just want to know who are the members of the committee, like who are the members on the committee. I think we saw 1-2 names, but tell us a bit, who are the members on the committee?
Right. The convener of the committee / the chairman of the committee is Carlos Hazel. He's a technical advisor in the division of finance, trade, and the economy. We also have our chief economist, Dr. Selvon Hazel, as a member of the committee. We have our subject matter expert is Mrs. Vernie Shields. She has been in the banking sector, banking and banking development for all her life. She's retired now. We have also the past chief administrator of the Tobago Assembly, Mr. Alan Richards. As a member, we have our senior legal officer in the Tobago Assembly, Ms. Leslie Gray. She is also a member. We have our chief accountant in the Division of Finance, Ms. Petal Toby. She's a member, and I'm also a member of the committee. That's the core.
Excellent.
And that's a technical oversight committee. The committee has the ability and the authority to court members as we go out to explain this initiative and this project to the national community. So we have that flexibility. So we can bring you on as a youth speaker.
Because I was getting there.
As a youth speaker, as we go out to the communities and as the project become closer to implementation and we build out all the blocks, we can now come and present this 3D initiative to the national community. And we probably invite the youth speaker, we'll invite probably Mothers Union. My mother used to be part of that some years ago. I don't know if that's still. But there is the opportunity for us to have a broader stakeholder dialogue on this matter, because this matter or this project, this bank is the People's Bank.
Okay.
It's Tobago's development bank. The name Tobago, and every Tobagonian has a stakeholder and shareholding, and your share certificate is your birth certificate.
All right, Mr. Richards. So I like how you touched on the youth involvement, because I was getting to that. I know usually with these committees, we will see that they will find a way to educate the young people about what it's all about. Recently in Trinidad, I think it was yesterday, we would have seen they had a debate when it comes to land management, which I tuned in because it was something I personally didn't know as a young person. And like I said earlier, this Tobago Development Bank is a very technical topic. So can we expect that at some point we can see some competitions coming out from this committee where we engage our high schoolers or sixth formers where they could probably either essay competitions, debates? So from that, from a youthful perspective, we can understand what the bank is all about, how it will benefit Tobago. Can we expect that at some point?
Well, definitely. That's a brilliant idea, and we'll want to get all Tobago buy-in, or all Tobago understanding of this institution. And more importantly, this development bank is really a bank that belongs to the future of Tobago. And it's the young people. I have more years behind me than I have ahead of me. So it will be remiss of the committee not to get the young people involved, or a young professional on board. The entire population understand what this institution is designed to do, how it is going to function, how it's going to impact their lives, how they can use this institution to transform their own personal lives and the lives of their families in terms of the investment. Because the funding is not only to fund government projects, and let me make that clear. This institution will provide funding for both private project development and public project development. So the government and private sector investing in Tobago will have access to the funding from this institution.
Okay, excellent, Mr. Richards. And from when we sit and we listen to the Tobago autonomy discussion, we realize that a key issue we have with the population is a lack of education when it comes to a certain topic. People are not aware of what is happening in this space. So when it comes to this development bank, what strategies can we expect to see when it comes to educating the public? We know usually we will see caravans, we will see pamphlets, brochures, we will see ads on the television. What strategies, if I'm not sure if you will implement it as yet, but what can we expect to educate the public of Tobago on a whole about this development bank?
Well, we'll have a vector of strategy. We'll have strategy that cuts across the different cohorts of the population, the different stakeholder grouping. We'll have specific strategies for those. For instance, the youth people, the competition at the level of the school, the debates at the level of the school. We'll have probably a social media platform, a young person that will drive the social media messaging for this institution. We'll have the community meetings for the elderly folks who would like to come to the community center and sit down and put up their hand and ask a question. We'll go into the organized groupings like the Chamber of Commerce, the Agriculture Society, the Fisher Folk Society. We will go to their spaces, sit with them, explain to them what the institution is about, how the institution is working to their benefit, how they can access the benefits that are nested in that institution. So there will be a multiplicity of approaches to ensure that all of Tobago is on board. We'll have the community meetings, the community outreach, and therefore we'll be able to bring the critical mass of support to this institution for its success.
Okay, excellent, Mr. Richards. Now, we know that close to 70% of Tobago's population is employed by the THA. Now, this probably be my last point and my last question. When it comes to THA workers, are they probably gonna expect some type of boost or increase in their standard of working from this development bank? This is just a off the book type question.
All right, so let me clarify that 70%, right? Because what I said at the inquiry yesterday is that, yes, I said that the direct employment figure is about 45 to 50%. But if you do the direct and indirect employment, we can go as far as 65, 70. So it's not 65, 70. That is direct and indirect. So you may have persons whose employment are impacted because of the THA employment. They are not being paid by the THA. So you have the direct and indirect employment. So I want to just clarify that because I don't want the national community to go away with the idea that 7 of every 10 persons employed in Tobago is working with the THA. That is not what the data is saying. So I just wanted to clarify that. So back to your question, the issue of the quality of life of Tobago has its genesis in our institutional construct and most of our governance construct. And we cannot escape. And let me make it blunt. And I want Tobagonians to understand something. We cannot develop this island if two things does not happen. One, we have to have constitutional reform that accord to the people of Tobago their right to self-determination. Let me explain why I'm saying that. The current system operates this way. The Tobago House of Assembly will prepare a budget based on the needs of Tobago. That budget has to be submitted, and I'm just using the budgetary process as an example, and then I'll go to a legal example. That budget has to be presented and submitted to the cabinet before the 30th of June every year, so that the request can feed into the national budget that comes in September, October. So that's the procedural part of it. But here what happens. So you will send down a budget to Trinidad, and I'm not advocating here that every dollar you ask for, you should get it. But the point I'm making is that the Minister of Finance, through the Ministry and the Minister of Finance and the Cabinet, determine what is funded in Tobago, what is not funded. In other words, they say what you could do and what you can't do, based on how the budget is constructed. So when you get your money in September, you have to come back to Tobago and try to reorganize your budget. Time you complete that exercise, the first quarter, October to December, done. The Chief Secretary have to come back sometime in October, in November to say, well, we will prioritize, we can't do this project again, and we can't do that. But the point I'm making is that they are making the changes to the budget without recourse or conversation with the Executive Council. So in essence, in reality, it is the Minister of Finance that is determining what happens in Tobago, because they determine, for instance, as I made the point before, they say you're not getting $400 million, you give you that in fiscal 2023, but you could only do $260 million in development work this year. How could you transform the island economy in a situation that is nested or birthed or populated with that kind of uncertainty? That has to change for Tobago to move forward. We have to have an arrangement where there is some predictability and consistency with Tobago's entitlement as part of this national entity called Trinidad, the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. The other thing is that we can formulate policy. We can say, okay, we want to do a policy to promote young people in housing and so forth. There's some administrative things we can do at that level. But to really give teeth and meaning to that policy may require legislation. We can't pass no law in Tobago to deal with matters in Tobago. And the Prime Minister, when he had the dispute, when the Chief Secretary went to the House and he was responding to the Chief Secretary, said that it's not the size of the kennel. They can't make law. And let me tell you, Tobagonians, the key issue in the internal self-government issue is Tobago's right to self-determination, the right to elect a government of its choice, and the right, and in the issue of self-determination, is to make law to govern how we operate this space. If that is absent, we are still being colonized by Port of Spain. So the current constitution, and I've said it without fear of contradiction, for me, is a colonial constitution. Tobago is colonized because the Minister of Finance in 2023-24 could say, I'm not funding the development bank because we asked for money for that. They're not giving us any money. We asked for $60 million to do the loan guarantee program. 2 years we have been negotiating that with the Ministry of Finance. They gave us $4 million. That must have to fund one businessman in the loan guarantee in Tobago. So that is the kind of reality, and people don't know what is happening behind the scene. It is a real challenge to really put any uptick in the Tobago economy. I'm not saying that there is need for efficiency, and I mentioned that about transforming the institutions of government. There's a need for efficiency in the Tobago House Assembly in terms of the capability of our human resources, the updating of our system, the modernization of technology in the THA. That will, as I said, that will bring significant efficiency and impact to our spending, because one of the things the only thing the THA has at its disposal as a lever for economic transformation is its ability to spend. I have said it repeatedly. In the current construct, the THA is by and large a spending agency.
Okay.
You get money from Trinidad and you could spend. You can't make law to change any construct to transform the economy. So it's a spending agency. So one of the things we have to do until we really stand up and enjoy our right to self-determination and the lawmaking powers is to ensure that we create maximum spend impact on the resource from the resources we receive annually to do the business of the people of Tobago.
Okay, Mr. Richard, so I want to thank you for joining us this morning. I want to thank you especially for reminding Tobagonians that the genesis of this autonomy discussion started from that aspect in the Constitution that says that only Parliament has the right to make laws.
Yeah.
And I always make mention to the debate between the Privy Council and the CCJ, where a judge said that an island or a country's determining body should not be located outside. It should be where the island is situated, and they should have the power to make all the laws. So I really look forward to this autonomy discussion. Probably in our next segment, we can have you on to speak about Tobago's autonomy from the financial aspect, because you seem to be very knowledgeable about that. But I want to thank you once again for joining us this morning. Viewers, that was Mr. Anslem Richard discussing Tobago Development Bank. We're going to take a quick break, and up next we are expecting probably Interdepartment. It's most likely going to be Interdepartment or Miss Rochelle Frank. Right, so it's going to be Miss Rochelle Frank, no stranger here to Tobago updates, and we'll be speaking about Cooler Fete. So we'll be getting into the festive mood from Miss Rochelle Frank right into the Interdepartment from the Division of Education. So stay tuned with us. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back.